Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. I hope all of you are having a great week so far. Students, in this class we are looking at an IELTS reading section. And we will go through an entire passage in this class, look at the questions, talk about some strategies. The topic of this reading passage is icebergs. Icebergs. For those of you who are not sure what icebergs are, I'll show you the passage for it today. It looks like this, mountains of ice. They're basically these gigantic floating chunks of ice in the ocean. That's what an iceberg is. Students, this lesson, these materials, this reading is presented to you by aehelp.com. For academic IELTS, visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. These are our websites. They power these live classes. And they will certainly help you succeed on your next exam. This is what our academic IELTS website looks like here with this blue background. Just click this big red button here to join the premium version of the course. It is a one-time payment for lifetime access. When you click that button, you can use the code FUTURE10 to save an additional 10% discount. It costs about $40-50 US depending on where you are. Some places even cheaper. And again, it's just a one-time payment. Welcome Carolina, our chat moderator. Everybody, you will see Carolina in blue in the chat. She is here to help you. You can ask her questions. Hi Sheila, Anna, Romelia. Good to see many students in the class. General IELTS students, green background, click this big red button here to join the premium version. We are an IDP affiliate, a British Council partner, and an IELTS test registration center. We will help you on your journey to IELTS success. And we're going to do that today with this live class. All right. Students, when you are a premium user, you get some extra classes each week. Those classes are on Thursdays and Fridays. You can check out what those classes look like with this link to the playlist. For those of you who are premium users, you should be looking at this playlist and practicing. Of course, we have apps that support your web accounts. Academic IELTS Help will link to aehelp.com, and General IELTS Help, that app will link to gieltshelp.com. So you can link your app to the website and learn on the go. If you have questions, send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com or admin@aehelp.com. Either one of those should get an answer fairly soon, within 24 to 48 hours. Students, we've got a full week ahead. Today it's reading. Tomorrow here on YouTube it's speaking. And then for premium users it's speaking on Thursday and more speaking on Friday. And you're going to have lots of chances to speak through Zoom. All right, let's do this. So let's get into our reading. Sheila Hassan, you're super welcome. I'm glad you enjoy those videos. Okay, students, so let's walk through this together. Those of you who are general IELTS candidates, your reading section 3 is the same as the academic IELTS reading passages. This is an academic IELTS reading passage that is taken from our very first exam, and it is our very first reading passage. Matematica. We are going to give you strategies right now. Ghazi, cool, back at you. Thank you for the super chat donation. So students, the very first step that you should take when you're in the reading section is read the titles. So this is Mountains of Ice. And you've got a picture here. You see that mountain of ice. Okay? But read the titles of the other passages as well. So here you have seismic shifts, silent drifts. And as the third passage in this exam, you have causes of the American economic crisis. So you've got these three titles: Mountains of Ice, Seismic Shifts, Silent Drifts, Causes of American Crisis. Now, if you're in the exam, you have to decide which one of these seems the easiest for me. If you're into economics and you study economics, then maybe economic crisis. You're like, oh, I learned about that. It was a big deal. So I'll start with that one. You can start with any passage. The first tip, everybody, is start with the passage that you feel is going to be the easiest for you. That's kind of in your wheelhouse, okay? So, strategy 1. Read the title of all passages in the reading section and start with the one that you feel is in your wheelhouse. Okay? In your wheelhouse is an expression that means it's in your knowledge base. It's what you have already learned. Okay? So start with that one. That's my recommendation. Okay? All right. In this case, I live in Canada. We've got some pretty cold winters, and we certainly have some icebergs in our waters. So for me, I'm not a huge economist, and I'm not big into geography either. So I would say for me, Mountains of Ice is a good one to start with. Okay. And again, a big chunk of ice that's floating in the water coming from the north or the south, right? It's a glacier that has broken off and fallen into the water, becomes an iceberg. Okay. All right. Okay, everybody, so we're going to start with this one, and then the other step that you should always take is as soon as you start to read, as soon as you read the title, as soon as you look at the image, you should visualize yourself. You should imagine that, hey, maybe you're standing there, you're a giant. Yay. Maybe you're like, this is my iceberg. You're going to put a flag on it. Okay, this is Adrian's iceberg. It's like a flag of anarchy. All right, so there it is. It's my iceberg. It's my walking stick. All right, I've got an iceberg. I'm pretty happy. There you go. Okay, so visualize, include yourself into the passage, become a part of the reading. It's very important. There are lots of candidates who read a passage, they go, oh, I understood every word except I forgot what I read. So you understood every word, but you forgot what you read? That's horrible. That should never happen. Okay, and the way to avoid that is engage the knowledge. So visualize. Okay, so even before you start reading, visualize the content, include yourself. Okay, all right, and then as soon as you do that, and you're like, okay, I'm looking at this, then look at the questions. So here we have, for our first set of questions, some yes, no, not given. Now, yes, no, not given means it's facts according to the passage, or it's not facts, or it's not given. We don't know if it's a fact or not. Don't read these questions before the passage. We don't know what is in the passage, what is not in the passage, so no point to do that. Okay, and then you have another question here. It says, complete the summary below. Now this one you want to read because it's all in the passage. It's a summary. Okay, so read this one. The sinking of the Titanic. Okay, everybody, this is reading, so read with me. Okay. All right. Because there was no international group which monitored icebergs in 1912, it was the sole responsibility of the someone to make sure there were no icebergs in the ship's path. The chief reason the iceberg wasn't detected was the something of the sea that night. Because of this, there were no waves crashing against the iceberg, making it difficult to spot. The captain swerved, but the iceberg scraped the side of the ship, ripping some part of the ship. Things should have been fine nevertheless, but the watertight compartments were poorly designed, and once the water was in a few compartments, it was able to something into all the others. This was a major engineering defect which resulted in the eventual sinking. Okay, good. Now we have complete the sentences below. Again, this is all in the passage because you're completing these sentences. They're likely paraphrased from the passage. Choose no more than 2 words. Okay, so maximum 2 words. And write your answers in boxes 10 to 13 if you're doing the paper-based. Okay. Again, let's read these together. This is all in the passage. Okay. To avoid a Titanic-like disaster in the future, someone formed the International Ice Patrol, or IIP. The IIP's goal is to track the relevant data and something of the icebergs. The Canadian Space Agency bounces something off the water to measure iceberg movement. This data renders large-scale maritime disasters something. Okay. So, now reading the questions, I know a couple of important facts. One fact is that part of this passage will be about the sinking of the Titanic, which seems to be some kind of a boat. For those of you who have our materials and did the listening exercise on this, you know that it's a famous cruise ship that sank from an iceberg or because of an iceberg back in the early 1900s. And then we know that there's some science around icebergs as well here, and some social organizations to track them. Okay, so we've read the questions. Now that we read the questions, we're going to read the passage. And one great tool that's in your premium course on your website is a British person reading the passage, so you can read with them. And we'll do that. We'll go back to aehelp.com. Again, for those of you who do not have full access yet, you can do that by clicking this Join Now button. Again, that's at aehelp.com. Okay. And then once you have access, you can go to your My Student account. And in your My Student account, you have computer-based practice exams, a full interactive course that you can take, exam books that you can download, and you have some audio CDs here. In your audio CDs, you've got this reading passage after the listening. So here it is. Now everybody read with this British speaker. Okay, we'll read this together. Here we go.
Icebergs. The word iceberg derives from the Dutch word Iceberg, meaning ice mountain.
Ice mountain.
Icebergs are sections of glaciers that are broken off during the warm summer months and float freely in open water. Icebergs are typically found in open water, predominantly around Greenland and Antarctica. The characteristics of icebergs, their historical impact, and the methods we employ today to monitor them are important topics. The reason icebergs exist is because of the difference between the density of ice and the density of salt water. The density of ice is approximately 920 kilograms per cubic meter, while the density of salt water is approximately 1025 kilograms per cubic meter. Because ice is less dense than water, it floats. However, because the difference in densities is so small, only about 10% of the iceberg is visible above the ocean's surface. The rest of the iceberg hides below the water.
This is the
origin of the familiar expression tip of the iceberg, used to describe a situation where only part of the problem is noticeable. Icebergs range in height from 1 meter all the way up to over 75 meters above sea level. The height measures the visible portion of the iceberg. The tallest icebergs may have a total height of over 650 meters, including their underwater portion. The largest ever recorded was 168 meters above the water, meaning the entire height of this floater was likely greater than 1,500 meters. For reference, that is twice the height of most skyscrapers. Different sized icebergs had different name classifications. The smallest icebergs are called brash ice. The next category up in size is called growlers, and the ones after that are called bergy bits. For whatever reason, after those three classes, the people in charge of naming the icebergs got a little less creative. The next classes simply ranged from small to very large. Icebergs can be massive objects. Very large icebergs can weigh more than 200,000 tons. The largest iceberg ever recorded was over 30,000 square kilometers in area. Again, for reference, that is the approximate size of the country of Belgium. The most famous iceberg in history is undoubtedly the one which eventually sunk the English ship Titanic off the coast of Newfoundland in 1912. At that point in time, there was no central group which monitored iceberg activity. Ships relied on lookouts to spot the icebergs. For the Titanic, the unfortunate attitude was that any iceberg big enough to do damage to the ship would be seen in time. This attitude was, of course, catastrophically wrong. The main reason it failed was the remarkable calmness of the water that ill-fated night. The easiest way to spot an iceberg from afar is to see waves crashing up against it. But on the night the Titanic sank, there were no such helpful waves. For all intents and purposes, the iceberg was invisible until it was too late. The captain swerved at the last minute, but as the side of the ship scraped across the iceberg, the hull of the ocean liner tore open. Things still may have been fine had it not been for the poorly designed watertight compartments. It turns out that when too many compartments were affected, the water was simply able to spill over to all the other compartments. This was an engineering defect that contributed to the Titanic's sinking. After the disaster of the Titanic, maritime authorities realized that a system needed to be put into place to monitor icebergs so that such a catastrophe would not be repeated. By 1914, the International Ice Patrol, IIP, was formed. Their purpose was to track all of the relevant meteorological and oceanographical data and to chart the movement of all major icebergs. Today, technology is used to track iceberg data. The Canadian Space Agency has multiple radar satellites which send microwaves off the ocean surface and record the reflection to track the movement of the icebergs. Maritime vessels have access to this information in real time, which allows them to know exactly where any local icebergs are at any moment, meaning that a repeat of the Titanic disaster is virtually impossible.
All right, let me just stop the audio before it gets into the next
Continental
reading
drift
section. There
and
it
plate
is. Boom. All right, let's stop that. By the way, students, on the website, you've got hundreds of videos and video lessons professionally recorded to help you pass each part of the IELTS exam. And again, that's at aehelp.com for academic IELTS students and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS students. Hopefully, Carolina has a moment to put that link into the chat for us. In the meantime, students, we'll set up the Zoom session. So we're going to do this reading more together. You'll have a chance to speak here. Let me put the Zoom link into the chat, and I will get you to read and answer these questions, and we'll talk some strategies together. Okay, so there's your Zoom link. Let me start up the Zoom meeting here. And then we'll get some of you to join and go through this passage one more time with me, paragraph by paragraph, and then we'll answer these questions with you and your peers. Go ahead, students, and open up Zoom. I'm going to continue using my camera right here on YouTube, but you go ahead and use your camera on Zoom if you'd like. Let me just get into it a little bit. Okay, and looking forward to speaking with some of you, having some of you read. All right, we've already got some people in here. If you're not using Zoom yet, students, make sure you do download it. Zoom is one of the most popular types of software for interactive classrooms and meetings. Let me admit the 8 people who have joined thus far, or the 9. And then we'll continue on here together. And make sure to test your microphone, of course, and your speakers, everybody. And then go ahead and volunteer. Okay, so let me just let everybody else in here again. In the meantime, I'll take a sip of tea, wet that whistle. So here we go. We've got 11 people in here now. Okay, and you can put up your hand like Mr. Shaw if you'd like to volunteer. Okay. Mr. Shaw, do you want to unmute yourself? Let's get you in here. Let's get you reading.
Sure, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. How about you, sir?
I'm fantastic, thank you. Shah, when are you planning to take your IELTS test?
Maybe by the end of June.
Okay, good. That's actually a good amount of time. You gave yourself a few months for sure to get really ready for it, so that's good. Okay, Shah, let's do this. So we're going to read again, but we'll go a little bit maybe slower and discuss the content a bit more, just to focus on not just fluency, but on comprehension. Are you ready?
All right. Sure, I am.
Okay, so remember to visualize. You're on a boat, you're checking out these icebergs, or maybe you're swimming underwater. I don't know, but you should be in the information, okay?
Sure.
Okay, whenever you're ready, go ahead and read the title and read the introductory paragraph for us, please.
All right. Mountains of ice. The word iceberg derives from the Dutch word Iceberg, meaning ice mountain. Icebergs are sections of glaciers that have broken off during the warmer summer months and float freely in open water. Icebergs are typically found in open water, predominantly around Greenland and Antarctica. The characteristics of icebergs, their historical impact, and the methods we employ today to monitor them are important topics.
Fantastic. Okay, just stop there for a second. So here's a very important tip coming up, everyone. The most important paragraph of any reading passage is the introduction. Okay, the introduction basically gives you an overview of all of the information. So it gives you like a really good idea of where information is in the passage. With any good introduction, there's usually a thesis statement. Okay, Shah, do you know what the thesis statement here is? Can you read the thesis statement again?
Yes, of course. The thesis is about like how icebergs are made, maybe how it is, maybe like its shape. Uh,
Read the thesis. There, one sentence in this introduction is the thesis, and if you read it, then we'll know exactly what it is.
uh, the thesis.
It's one sentence of the introduction.
I would say the first one is the word iceberg, maybe,
Nope, 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 nope,
or
nope.
or
Look
or
at your
let's say icebergs are sections of
nope,
glaciers that
nope,
have
nope, nope. Look at your peers. Your classmates are trying to help you in the chat.
uh, historical and maybe they are historical.
Look at
They
Hopanop and look at Jack in the chat. Jack and Hopanop in the chat are trying to help you out, from what I can see
uh,
in,
oh
in YouTube.
implemented to monitor them. Oh, monitoring the ice.
No,
That's an
no, no,
important topic.
no. Let me help you out here. So Hopanop says it's the last one, and Jack says it's the last sentence of the introduction. Yeah, it usually is. It's this last sentence here. Okay, so the thesis. So this is Chuck. This is a big tip for you and everybody else who didn't know this before. This is a very big tip. Okay, usually the thesis is the last one or two sentences of the introduction. Go ahead and read that one.
All right. The characteristics of icebergs, their historical impact, and the methods we employ today to monitor them are important topics.
Okay, that's your thesis. That basically tells you that the rest of this passage will be about these 3 points. And with a good thesis, it also tells you that they're organized according to these 3. So you've got point 1 here, characteristics of icebergs. You've got point 2 here, historical impact. And then you've got point 3 here, methods we employ to monitor them. So 1, 2, 3. So basically this author's saying, I'm going to tell you about these 3 points. Are you following me, Shah?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And from doing the reading already once with that British reader, we know that that's actually what happens, right? So in these first couple of paragraphs, it's telling us about the characteristics. So it tells us how heavy they are, 1,025 kilograms per cubic meter. It tells us how big they can be, 650 meters high, right? So that's the characteristics. Then it says the historical impact. And here we have a whole paragraph about the sinking of the Titanic, right?
Yes, right.
So that's the history. And then here it tells us that the methods we use to employ or monitor them are important. And if we go to the very end here in the conclusion, that's what it tells us, is how we're now tracking icebergs so that other ships don't sink, right?
Yes.
You see that? So when you're in the questions and people are like, oh, where should I look? Or if they're searching or scanning or skimming, then when you understand the thesis, it becomes much easier to find information. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course it does.
Okay. So really pay attention to that thesis statement in your reading passages. It's super helpful. Okay. All right, Chuck. Let's read one more, Chuck. One more paragraph here. Go ahead and read the body paragraph 1.
Okay. The reason icebergs exist is because of the difference between the density of ice and the density of the salt water. The density of ice is approximately 920 kilograms per cubic meter, while the density of salt water is approximately 1,025 kilograms per cubic meter. Because ice is less dense than water, it floats. However, because the difference in densities is so small, only about 10% of the iceberg is visible above the ocean's surface. The rest of the iceberg hides below the water. This is the origin of the familiar expression tip of the iceberg, used to describe a situation where only part of the problem is noticeable.
Okay. Good. So we've got a little information about what this essay will look like and about why icebergs exist, right? Because
Yes.
icebergs are less dense than salt water. All right, Shah, thank you so much for starting off the reading. We'll get some of your
Well,
classmates to continue from there. Did you have a question about the reading section?
Uh, the first one, like when you said what's the thesis, I did not know actually because even no one taught me this one before, so it was a good lesson, honest. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and remember too, Shah, that the thesis statement is also really important in your task 2 writing, right? So you definitely want to focus on that, okay?
Sure, sure. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Shah.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, give Shah a big thumbs up for starting off the reading today. That was really great. Let me check who else has got their hand up in Zoom here. Alice, I don't think we've heard from you in a while. Why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself?
Yes, sir. Hello, Adrian.
How are
How
you?
are you?
I'm good, thank
Yeah,
you,
I'm
Alice.
good.
Good.
Thank you. I'm good too.
Alice, have you ever seen an iceberg?
No,
No?
I never see iceberg. Yeah,
No. No.
maybe one day I'll travel to see that.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, let's do a little bit of reading so you know what you can expect maybe one day when you do see them. When you're ready, Alice, read from Icebergs range in height.
Yes, icebergs range in height from 1 meter all the way up to over 75 meters above sea level. The height measures the visible portion of the iceberg. The tallest icebergs may have a total height of over 650 meters, including their underwater portion. The largest ever recorded was 168 meters above the water, meaning the entire height of this floater was likely greater than 1,500 meters. For reference, that is twice the height of most skyscrapers.
Good. Good. Good.
And
That's great. So this one is telling us about the size of these icebergs. Can you imagine, Alice, an iceberg that's 1,500 meters in height?
yeah,
That's
I just read now that it can higher than most skyscrapers.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
literally a floating
Okay.
mountain of ice in the water. Isn't that
Yeah.
amazing?
Yes.
I would not like to crash into that iceberg. That's a big one. All right. Okay. Alice, any questions about the reading section?
Mm, read some paragraphs. I know almost 70 or 80% words, but sometimes when reading some novels, I just can't get a piece of information. Cannot get the whole story.
Yeah, and that's okay. So when you're reading at home, definitely choose materials where you can understand 70 or 80%. If you don't understand at least 60%, then choose a different reading. Then it means it's too advanced. But in the okay, so yeah, so if you're reading a novel and you don't know what's happening at all, choose a different novel. It's that means it's too advanced, right? You want to build up to that level. In the IELTS, if you're not sure what you're reading, just really focus on what you do understand, right? You can't kind of worry about what you don't understand. So focus on what you do understand and really try to think about what knowledge you have for that. But at home, always choose novels that you can understand at least 60-70%. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Alice, for volunteering. I appreciate
Thank you
you
too.
chiming in. Thank you. All right, everyone. That was Alice. Give Alice a big thumbs up. That was really good. Let's give somebody else a chance. Let's see who else is volunteering. Okay, we've got a few different hands up. Aman, would you like to chime in? I see you've got your hand up. Where are you, Aman?
Hi, Adrian. Good morning.
How? Good morning, or good evening, Aman. I think it's evening for you. All right. Aman, when are you planning to do the IELTS exam?
I am going to give IELTS exam in this December.
December?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You've got lots of time to really get ready and get that super high score. So if you're using the website and you're using good materials, you should be able to get a really good score. Okay, just make sure you're practicing every
Yes.
day, right? Like if you're, if you want to get a good score in reading, you have to read, right? If you want to get a good score in writing, you have to write. Okay, Aman, let's continue from there.
Yes,
So
sir.
let's continue from different sized icebergs. Go ahead and keep reading.
Different sized icebergs have different name classifications. The smallest icebergs are called brush ice. The next category up in size is called growlers, and the ones after that are called bergy bits. For whatever reason, after those three classes, the people in charge of naming the icebergs got a little less creative. The next classes simply range from small to very large. Iceberg can be massive objects. Very large icebergs can weigh more than 200,000 tons. The largest iceberg ever recorded was over 30,000 square kilometers in area. Again, for reference, that is approximate size of the country of Belgium.
Okay. So Alice read about an iceberg that's the size of a mountain. It's 1,500 meters high, total height. And you just read about an iceberg that's the size of the country of Belgium. What do you think about that, Aman?
That would be very, very large to cross across the
Yeah.
iceberg from one end to the another end.
Well, it'd be like a 2-week adventure. It's 30,000 square kilometers. Sorry, it'd be more. It'd be months. It'd take you months to walk across that
It will
iceberg.
take very time and difficulty.
You would almost think you're on a continent. You would almost think you're on like on not even an island, but you would think you're almost like on a continent. It's huge. Belgium's a big country, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So visualizing that is important. Okay, Aman, keep reading. Let's read this paragraph about the Titanic here.
The most famous iceberg in history is undoubtedly the one which eventually sunk the English ship Titanic off the coast of Newfoundland in 1912. At that point in time, there was no central group which monitored iceberg activity. Ships relied on lookouts to spot the icebergs. For the Titanic, the unfortunate attitude was that any iceberg big enough to do damage to the ship would be seen in time. This attitude was, of course, catastrophically wrong. The main reason it failed was the remarkable calmness of the water that ill-fated night. The easiest way to spot an iceberg from afar is to see waves crashing up against it. But on the night the Titanic sank, there were no such helpful waves. For all intents and purposes, the iceberg was invisible until it was too late. The captain squirreled at the last minute, but as the ship scraped across the iceberg, the hull of the ocean liner tore open. Things still may have been fine, had it not been for the poorly designed watertight compartments. It turns out that when too many compartments were affected, the water was simply able to spill over to all the other compartments. This was an engineering defect that contributes to the Titanic's sink. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Oh, scary. Have you seen that movie Titanic, Aman?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you
I
have.
watched it.
So you know exactly what this is talking about, right?
Yes, sir.
Remember when Leonardo DiCaprio and oh, I forget her name, the actress, the famous actress. They're actually in those watertight compartments, and the water's spilling over from one to the other compartment. Do you remember those scenes where they're like trapped inside the boat, and all the
Yes,
water's
sir.
moving from? Yeah. So this is actually telling you that actually happened. That's what was happening. All right, Aman, thank you so much for reading. Stay with us because we're going to answer the questions in a bit. Okay, so thank you for the reading. I'll get one of your classmates to finish the conclusion. Okay.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yeah, go for
Can
it.
I ask?
Yeah, go for it.
Would you tell me something about group discussions?
Tell you something about, sorry, what kind of discussions?
Group discussions
Group
about a specific topic.
group discussions.
Yes.
What do you mean, like specific topic for group discussions? Can you be a little bit?
Topic like political topics, social topics, topics which are in which are doubted.
Yeah, so for the IELTS, you want to target all of like the main topics that are common for all people around the world, like technology, education, economics. I wouldn't go into too much into politics because politics are unique and they're kind of different in different countries, but go into topics that are the same in every country, like environment, right? Whether you're in India,
Yes, sir.
Canada, Brazil, environmental topics are the same, right? So think about topics that are
Yes,
the
sir.
same around the whole world, okay? Those are good discussion topics, all right?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. That was a good question. Thanks, Aman. All right, everyone, give Aman a thumbs up. That was, yeah, super good. Students are doing great with their reading today. Ghazi, why don't you chime in? Thank you for the super chat donation today, Ghazi.
Hello, Adrian.
How are you, Ghazi?
I'm fine. How about you?
I am doing fantastic. I am well rested after the Easter long weekend, so thank you.
Yeah. Happy Easter, by the way. So I hope you enjoyed the amazing weekend, and the
It-
weather is nice generally, maybe.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. I
Across
got lots
Canada.
done. Yeah, I got lots done, and I got a good chance to relax. So good energy. Yeah, absolutely.
That was good.
Yeah, Ghazi, let's jump right in. Read the conclusion, please.
Okay, after the disaster of the Titan, maritime authorities realized that a system needed to be put into place to monitor icebergs, so that such as a catastrophe would not be repeated. By 1914, the International Ice Patrol (IIP) was formed. Their purpose was to track all of the relevant meteorological and oceanography data and the chart that movement of all major iceberg today. Technology is used to track iceberg data. The Canadian Space Agency has multiple radar satellites which send microwaves of the ocean surface and record the reflection to track the movement of the icebergs. Maritime vessels have access to this information in real time, which allows them to know exactly where any local icebergs are at any moment, meaning that a repeat of the Titan disaster is virtually impossible.
Okay. Question: which country mostly tracks iceberg movement, Ghazi?
I think here Canada, specifically Newfoundland, the shore of Newfoundland, the Atlantic part of Canada, because that's the most common place for the iceberg. So even here in Newfoundland, we expect to see them soon.
So do you see icebergs where you live?
Yeah, it's not exactly what I need to go to drive maybe from here just and have hour. But before I left in the central of Newfoundland, I was closer to the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. So yeah, but I saw them
That's so cool. That's so cool, Ghazi. That must be
Yeah,
so.
you can imagine a huge iceberg close. They come close to the shore actually, and
Oh,
you can see the tip of the iceberg in different shapes. It comes.
that's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I really hope
Yeah.
one day I have a chance to see that, because that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, we expect to see them maybe soon once the temperature will rise. Maybe in May, yeah, usually the
Okay.
1st of May. And
So is that kind of like a tourist attraction? Like people go iceberg watching?
yeah, because the Newfoundland like an island, so you can see them in all the directions of Newfoundland. So yeah, so a lot of people, and the amazing thing, there is a lot of communities and towns on the shore of the Atlantic Oceans. So these kind of communities are lucky because they can see them from their houses actually.
That's so cool. That's so cool. That's so cool. All right, Ghazi. Let's do a yes, no, not given question. So
Okay.
we'll do it together. Can you read number 1, please?
Yeah, icebergs are sections of glaciers that have broken off in the winter months.
Okay. Is this an
Okay.
important piece of information to know what icebergs are? So icebergs are sections of glaciers. Can you repeat this word after me? Glacier.
Glaciers, like pieces.
Glacier.
Glaciers.
There you go.
Section of glaciers. Yeah, okay.
Okay. So important
Yeah.
to know? Yeah.
That comes in the characteristic of the iceberg for sure is consists of after they melt or broke off, they become like smaller pieces like that.
Yep. Yep. So it's given,
Yeah.
right? So it's going to be given.
Yeah, that is given.
And
That
is it true?
important.
Is it true that there are sections of glaciers that broke off in the winter months?
I don't think, because they broken off in hot or in the spring, we can see. It's not in the winter. Should be in spring
So it's
or
no.
in the no. Should be no.
Yeah, you actually just told us that, right? You said, "Hey, I live in
Yeah.
in this part of the world. We don't see them in the winter. We see them in the late spring and summer, right?" So
Yeah. The iceberg is my
specialty.
They say.
It's
Yeah.
you're an iceberg expert.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Let's do one more, Ghazi. Number 2.
Okay. Icebergs exist because of the different densities of ice and salt water. I think that's important. They consist of the difference in density between ice density and salt water density. That's important given true.
Very good. Ghazi, you've got this. We're talking to an iceberg expert here, so I wouldn't expect anything less. Okay.
Yeah, I hope I get this topic in my
Yeah,
next
I bet.
virus.
I bet. Ghazi, thank you so much for chiming in. That was a pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Adrian, for having me. See you later.
Okay, talk to you later. Bye, Ghazi.
Bye.
All right, that was Ghazi. Very good. Let's give Ghazi a big thumbs up. That was awesome. It's great to have a iceberg expert with us. Yeah, Ghazi lives on the east side of Canada, so he sees these icebergs. I live on the west coast. We don't see them here, unfortunately. I think up north, like closer to Alaska, people do, but not as far south as Vancouver Island. Okay. All right, let's get El Tayeb. El Tayeb, can you chime in? You've had your hand up for a while now. Go for it.
Yeah, why not?
Hi, Altayeb. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing good. Altayeb, have you ever seen an iceberg?
No, I haven't. And I don't think I'll do.
Yeah, you live in a very warm part of the world right now, right?
It's almost a desert.
No icebergs there. Only sand mountains, right? Not ice mountains, but sand mountains. All
At
right.
least I can see some oceans here, at the coasts, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, but all the ice would melt by the time it got there, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. Okay, so let's leave these last three true, false, not given questions for students to figure out at home, and let's go to this sinking of the Titanic, this fill in the blank one. So, when you're ready, LTEB, can you start by reading the title here, the sinking of the Titanic, and then just start reading this summary?
Yeah. Am I allowed to start or what?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there was no international group which monitored icebergs in 1912, it was the sole responsibility of the captain
Okay.
to make sure there were no icebergs in the ship's path.
Okay, let's stop for a second. Okay, so are you sure that the answer is captain?
Well, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, so maybe you've seen like some movies or read in books where you have this boat.
I think lookouts.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it looks like somebody's telling. Okay, have you ever seen these movies like where you have this person at the top of the boat looking like that?
Circular boat, something like that.
Yeah, usually the captain is like here. The captain's usually steering the ship, right?
He's
Okay, and there's another guy that's like way up there at the top of the mast, and he's looking that way, right? So that person's called the lookout. Lookout, literally one word, lookout.
Yeah, I remember the word, but I wasn't sure if I should write it with the S or not.
Yeah, you could use an S here, so lookouts to make sure. All right, okay, let's keep going. Let's go for the next one. But you know what? I liked how you took a stab at it and you said captain. You can always go back and check. Let's keep going.
Yeah, sure. To make sure that there were no icebergs in the ship's path, the chief reason of the iceberg wasn't detected was the
Something of the sea that
the
night.
ill-fated.
No.
No.
It's not
No.
ill-fated. So I'll give you a couple of hints, everybody. Altab, before we continue, I'm going to give you a couple strategies, couple tips, okay? Okay, so first of all, when you have a situation like this with the first one, number 6, lookouts, and you're like, Altab, you're like, I think maybe the captain. So you write down captain, but you're not sure, okay? So what you would do in the real IELTS is you would just put a little question.
simply.
Yeah, but don't go back right away. Okay, so don't go back to the text right away. Just put a little question mark there. Okay, and then that will remind you to go back to the text if you have time. Okay, if you don't have time, just keep captain, right? And hopefully it's right. Only go back when you have enough time. So now you keep going to make sure there were no icebergs in the ship's path. The chief reason the iceberg wasn't detected was the something of the sea that night. Ill-fated means like bad luck. But it's the bad luck of the sea that night that doesn't make sense, right? So something of the sea that night. The sea was what that night? It was.
I know it doesn't make sense, but I saw the word after the calmness, so I thought it might be the answer.
So the answer is actually what you just said. Try to stick that word in there.
Calmness.
What does it mean, calmness?
The maybe the waves are not moving in all directions.
Exactly. Do you remember that part where it said the easiest way to spot an iceberg is to see the waves hitting it, the waves crashing against it?
Yeah, I do recall that part.
Okay, so you have to visualize that, right? So if there's an iceberg and it's nighttime and the waves are hitting it, then you can see the waves. You maybe even hear them, right? So not just seeing, but hearing, like hearing the waves go as they're hitting the iceberg, right? But if there's no waves, it's going to be much harder to spot that iceberg or even to hear that it's there, right? So it's the calmness of the sea that night, right? Again, visual reading is very, 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 very powerful. Okay. We're gonna leave the question 8 and 9 for you and for your classmates to do at home. Let's do question 10 here. Can you read that one?
Yeah, absolutely. To avoid Titanic-like disaster in the future.
Somebody read the whole sentence. Go. Somebody formed the international.
Somebody formed the International Lead Patrol. I was thinking of the answer, so.
Who formed? It's basically who formed the International Ice Patrol. Yep. Somebody look at Shakrani there in the chat.
Canadian agency.
Canadian what agency? It's 2 words, right? So it has to be something like that. Yeah, maybe. You know what, though? In this case, International Ice Patrol, IPP, is pretty easy to look for. It's going to be in the conclusion. So it's okay to skim or scan sometimes when it's easy. Read the first sentence.
If I know where the answer is, I can go right back. And
yeah, read it. Read a little bit from the first sentence.
After the disaster of the Titanic, maritime authorities realized that a system needed to be put into place to monitor icebergs so that such a catastrophe would not be repeated.
Okay, so who formed the IPP?
Maritime authorities.
That's right, it was the maritime authorities, so people who are kind of in charge of paying attention to what's happening on the ocean, right? So maritime authorities. Maritime means the ocean in this case, or salt water is marine authorities, right? So not just Canada,
marine.
Right? Yeah. Marine, the adjective is maritime. Marine, maritime. Marine, maritime. Okay. All right, so El Tayeb, you're doing good. A tip, always read the full question, then think about the space, and your first instinct is right. Try to answer it, and then go through all of the questions, and if you can't, then go back and search, okay?
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Well, before I leave, I have a question. What do you think is the most important component for the section of a language?
What is the most important part of a language?
I mean, yeah, like the reading or the speak or...
If I had to, okay, so if I had to choose one, it's definitely speaking, because speaking is the real-time communication that we use more. We speak more than any other aspect, and speaking requires listening. So if I had to say to students what's the fastest way for you to improve your English for the IELTS exam, is to speak as much as possible every day. Second would be reading. Okay?
Okay. So by reading a lot, I can improve both speaking and listening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so reading is very important for improving your language, and speaking is very important. Listening and writing will come fairly naturally when you speak and read often. Yeah, 100%. Okay.
For that tip.
Okay, thanks, Al Tayeb.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. Okay, everybody, I'm going to end our Zoom meeting there because we've run out of class time, but you've done a great job, and you can send the answers to the rest of those reading questions here. Okay, Adrian at aehelp.com and admin at aehelp.com. Again, students, remember to join me at aehelp.com and glshelp.com for premium membership. It is a one-time payment. You get lifetime access, and you get to join all the Zoom classes in the week as well. So click there and you're good to go. Thank you so much, students, for being here with me. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow for speaking. We'll use Zoom for speaking tomorrow as well. Carolina, thank you for moderating the chat. Much love to all of you, wherever you are in the world today. Have an awesome rest of Tuesday, and we'll see you on Wednesday. I'm Adrian. I'm signing out from Victoria here in Western Canada. Bye, everybody.